exciting episode of Showreel. I'm your host, Courtney Beck, and we have a great episode in store for you today, including an in-depth look at the upcoming blockbuster World War Z and a discussion about the film superstar heartthrob Brad Pitt. We will also be bringing you the latest news in the biz and wrapping up with more acting tips from the talented Keanu Reeves. Joining me is my wonderful co-host, Nick Flynn.
Thanks, Courtney. But first, we are joined by professional special effects makeup artist Caitlyn Worland. Thanks for joining us, Caitlyn.
No worries, anytime.
So you previously worked for the government as a lawyer, and now you're pursuing a career in the film and TV industry. How difficult was that a decision to make?
Well, sort of my whole life I've always been very creative, and I was drawn to the creative industries, but one way or another ended up putting it off and went and studied law and graduated. And I did enjoy it, but I still had that sort of desire to do something creative, and I've always loved the film industry. So when my brother started studying at QUT in film and television, I decided, why not give it a shot? And the decision was hard, but it's the best thing I've ever done. I'm like the happiest I've ever been.
And so that just happened in the past year. So what projects have you been working on since then?
So sort of when I first started studying, it was about July last year, and my first job was actually theatre work. So that was with QUT. Then since then I've just worked on a few different student films. My name got around, I started a website, those sort of things. And I've been working on bigger, more indie productions, a lot of stuff for film festivals, like Tropfest, things like that. I do a lot of other beauty work as well for photo shoots, a lot of photographers around Brisbane, things like that. But my main sort of interest is film and television, so trying to get into the film industry.
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously you've had quite a few jobs so far. Do you feel you're making some good progress towards a sustainable career in the industry?
Yeah, I mean, most months I'm booked out most weekends. I do work another job. I work for Christian Dior at Maya, so that's just like a steady income. Because a lot of the film work is volunteer, or it just covers costs and those sort of things. And it is quite expensive with usually just the equipment and materials I use. So I usually just cover those because I'm trying to get as much experience as I can, meet as many people as I can. If somebody comes to me with a script that has some really insanely awesome makeup, I'd probably pay them to do it. So.
Yeah. And how long does, say, zombie makeup usually take?
There's like varied levels of zombie makeup. So when I volunteered last year at the Brisbane Zombie Walk, we were just doing 30-minute flash makeups, and you can still get a pretty decent zombie out of that, a few latex wounds and things like that. But if you want, say, for like a bigger film, like I worked on It's a Man's World, which is in post at the moment, sort of like, it's based at a lot of the film festivals.
Yep.
But the zombie makeup in that was quite a lot of effort went into it. So all the wounds me and 3 other makeup artists, we sculpted beforehand, matched it to the actors, and it was a longer process, over an hour on each sort of. And then like a feature zombie, you'd spend an hour and a half, 2 hours on.
Yeah, and I was also going to ask you about the other charity work you do, because I know you do the Brisbane Zombie Walk. So
yeah.
What sort of stuff do you do there? Do you just go around and...
Well, yeah, the Zombie Walk, basically what we do, so I volunteered with my school last year where I studied, and we just had a booth and anybody could come up, and all profits go straight to the Brain Foundation.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah, so this year I'm hoping to set up a booth on my own, just as my own business, and try to get it, so I'll do like individual wounds for $5, and then I'll do $10 for a full zombie and things like that. But I want to get more involved in other volunteering things as well, because last year I did a bit with like in some of the hospitals, so the Children Foundation, things like that, like Halloween, going in and doing face painting and things like that.
Fun.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and I love to give back to the community, and I've always sort of liked volunteering, so.
Yeah.
Nice. I know, especially from my perspective when I'm watching movies, I see the makeup and stuff and I think, wow, that's really, really difficult. What are some of the most difficult things you've worked on, and when you look at movies, what do you think are some of the most difficult examples?
I mean, probably the most challenging makeup to do as a special effects makeup artist is anything that's sort of like a creature or a character, or like anything off Star Trek, Doctor Who, those sort of things. Because when you have to change the facial structure of an actor into something, unearthly and unworldly, it takes a lot of effort behind the scenes. There's a lot of, you're taking moulds and casts of people's faces, then you've got to sculpt onto that what you're creating, and then it's a big process. And then on the day, say like Lord of the Rings, and orc makeup can take anywhere between 6 to 8 hours, and that's just for one of them.
Yeah.
So it's, those sort of things are obviously the most time consuming, but the end result is always going to be amazing.
Is that why in The Hobbit they use CGI instead of makeup?
Yeah, it
Yeah,
is. Like sometimes, yeah, they do go for the CGI. Honestly, well, I'm a bit biased.
Yeah,
I think the makeup's always going to be the best way to go.
Yeah.
But there are some things you can't do with makeup.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it takes a long time to do CGI? I mean, God, special effects, makeup, hey?
Yeah, like, I mean, some basic things, you can knock them out quite quickly, especially if you've been doing it for a long time. A lot of the people in the industry that have been in it for 20, 30 years, they can knock stuff out quite quick. But even no matter how much experience you have, if you have something that complicated, that's a full creature that changes every part of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, it takes time. You've got to put it on and then you've got to paint it. And then also there's the removal
Yeah,
afterwards. And there's a lot of really intense glues and removers and things like that used. So
it just doesn't look as good, I don't think.
no.
No. No.
I think, yeah, there's just something magical about special effects, and the way it shows up on screen is amazing.
Yeah, definitely. With Lord of the Rings, would that be an ideal sort of movie that you'd like to work on, or would you have any other sort of film franchises that you'd really like to work on?
I mean, I don't know if you've just seen the recent Evil Dead that just came out.
Yeah,
That's
too scary for me.
The makeup in that, like, that would be a dream. And that was shot in New Zealand. I've sort of been stalking some of the makeup artists a bit because I love their work.
Yeah.
Everything they do is amazing. Because everything in that, none of it was CGI. So horror, yeah, I'd love to be on that. For more of, you know, your sci-fi, anything Star Trek or Doctor Who related would be my sort of gig, I think. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
And so do you have any makeup artists that you aspire to? Like, aspire to be like, or is there any famous ones that you look up to?
I mean, like, there's a few different, like the Weta Productions over in America, they have a lot of makeup artists working under them, a lot that, you know, they work on some really big films, do some amazing stuff. In Australia, you know, there's the Frampton Institute, you know, he did Braveheart and all those sort of things.
Yeah,
so,
cool.
but Jason Beard's actually on the Gold Coast. He's an amazing prosthetic makeup artist. So, whilst I love the international makeup artists and they do some amazing stuff, I sort of wouldn't mind learning more from the people from Australia and New Zealand, and yeah, keep it local, help each other, yeah, build a bit more of a makeup artist network here in Australia.
Oh, brilliant. Well, that's all we have time for at the moment. We're just going to take a short break, and when we get back, we'll be talking about World War Z, so stay tuned.
Welcome back to Showreel. Melissa McCarthy, the popular plus-size actress from Mike and Molly, is set to lend her voice talents to the new animated flick, Boo, Bureau of Otherworldly Operations, and Seth Rogen is also set to star in the DreamWorks production. Multiplex apocalypse. Both Steven Spielberg and George Lucas are predicting that we are witnessing the beginning of an end for the studio system as we know it. The legendary directors and producers believe that video on demand will be the future and that a number of studios will implode under their own weight and inability to change fast enough for the times. Harry Potter alumnus Emma Watson is set to star in Queen of the Tealing, a show critics have dubbed Game of Thrones for girls. Warner Bros. Is producing the story based on the book by Erica Johansson. Man of Steel has taken in an incredible $12 million in special midnight screenings at selected theatres across America. It is all looking well for the superhero flick to break a number of box office records. Well, he famously said, "I'll be back," and he is former Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger is waiting on the script for Terminator 5, which is stated to go into production early 2014. Naomi Watts will soon grace our screens in Diana, a biopic directed by Downfall's Oscar winner Oliver Hirschbiegel. And on the small screen, Eva Longoria will be lending her voice talents to The Simpsons, where she will be playing an intellectual and political rival to our favourite saxophonist Lisa. And that's the news.
We all know Brad Pitt as one of the biggest A-list celebs in Hollywood, having starred in many highly acclaimed films, such as *Inglourious Bastards*, *The Curious Case of Benjamin Button*, *Fight Club* and *Seven*, just to name a few. And of course for choosing Angelina Jolie over Jennifer Aniston. Love him or hate him, Brad Pitt sure has been in his fair share of blockbuster hits. Now, the long-awaited World War Z, his latest film, is just about to be released in Australian cinemas on the 21st of June.
Yes, that's right. Adapted from the popular novel by Max Brooks, which centres around a number of first-person stories of outbreaks of the virus, World War Z the movie follows one main character, Brad Pitt, as he battles the terrifying zombie pandemic that is threatening to destroy the human race. So this film uses a lot of CGI. Which one do you prefer? Obviously, you prefer using special effects.
Yeah,
makeup.
obviously, I'm a bit biased towards special effects. I think when you can do it, you should. But I guess with World War Z, from what I've seen on the trailer, there is a mass amount of zombies in some of the shots, and it might be a bit difficult to get makeup on that many extras. But I think if they're doing close-up shots, then yeah, you should go in with some special effects.
Mm.
So are we looking forward to the film, irrespective of that sort of stuff? I know I am, but are you looking forward to, even though you're a bit biased towards?
Yeah, well, I mean, like, I've read the book, World War Z. From what I've seen, it looks fairly different, but doesn't mean it's going to be bad. It's nice to take a different look at a book and change it up a bit, and I think Brad Pitt will do a good job, so...
Yeah, it's actually directed by Mark Forster, who did Finding Neverland and Monsters Ball, which were pretty good. I love those movies. But I don't know about the zombie thing. I'm not really into that sort of stuff, but I don't know. It looks pretty good.
Well, I think, zombies are a bit of a trend at the moment, or have been for a while, so...
Definitely.
Yeah.
And apparently it's rated PG, so a lot of critics were a bit like, oh my god, it's bloodless and no one gets bitten in the scenes, and so, I don't know. What do you reckon?
Well, I guess they got to do something different. Like The Walking Dead, I know it's a TV series, but it's quite full on, and in doing that, I think they lose some of their audience because some people can't stomach it. So it might be a good way to go to try and broaden their audience a bit. Yeah,
absolutely. Now I know another example of such a high use of CGI in makeup is Jeff Bridges in Tron. Did you ever catch Tron?
Yeah.
What did you think of that sort of example? Did you think it worked well, or was it jarring for you? Or
well, I think when CGI is done well, it looks just as good. And if the actors are used to working with things like that, then and it all sort of gels together, then it works fine. Obviously, if you're doing some sort of special effects or character changes, then it's going to be easier on the actors to sort of react and see, those sort of things. But I think they did a good job.
Oh, great.
What about Brad Pitt in Benjamin Button? I don't know. In the first couple of scenes as a baby, I reckon that just looked creepy to me. It didn't look very real at all.
Yeah.
But I suppose how they're going to make a baby look old, I don't know. You can't really. Can you put stuff on a baby? I don't know.
Well, I mean, you can age people significantly, and you can make them look quite a lot younger. But there's obviously limits. The same with anything. You can only push something so far until it is impossible or looks ridiculous.
Yeah, absolutely. So, do you think there'll be some use of makeup in World War Z? And if so, do you think it'll do well in comparison to the very famous Walking Dead at the moment?
Well, I hope they do have some makeup in it. It's not all CGI, and I'm definitely looking forward to see how they do it, and to see whether they do take a different take on the zombies that have been seen in the past. Yeah, like in The Walking Dead, because I'm a big fan of the makeup in that. So let's see how they do it in World War Z.
And apparently, well, we all know that Max Brooks wrote the book, World War Z, and it's completely different to the movie. And apparently he says that he doesn't want anything to do with it, and it's just pretty much the title they've taken. So what do we think about, movies trying to adapt from books or completely changing it?
Yeah, I guess with because I'm a big fan of the book.
Yeah, the fans.
Yeah,
like, God.
But the sort of concept, it would be very hard to reflect in a film because it is taken from so many different perspectives, and there's not really that lead character or hero, and I guess that sort of, is a big part of film.
Yeah.
So they had to adapt it, and I don't know, see how they go. They could do a really good job, but, even if it's completely different to the book, they can still make a great film out of it. So I won't be too judgmental till I've seen it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, I know it's a bit early to call, but do you think they might make a sequel, particularly if it's popular?
I mean, they've got room to, because then they could sort of base it more on what the book is, doing the post-apocalyptic after everything's sort of getting back to normal, then they could definitely do a sequel on that sort of point of view, and maybe use this as sort of a prequel to the book. But who knows?
Absolutely.
I guess it depends how well the film goes.
So in the book, do the zombies actually win? I don't want to give spoilers away to people who haven't seen the movie, but you haven't seen it either. But in the book, they don't take over. It's just like
they do it some points, but then
years,
it's sort of different efforts from all the different parts of the world, and they all do their own sort of recovery missions and ways of sorting things out. And it's where it's taken. The world's not fully back to normal. There is huge carnage everywhere, and there's a lot of people dead and things like that. But they're getting back to it, and they did sort of triumph, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So are you a fan of Brad Pitt?
Yeah, I think he's a good actor. Obviously, he's good looking, but he has some amazing films, some not so good. But I guess that's the same with any actor. You have your hit and miss.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
What do you reckon about his new facial hair? Do you reckon? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I like him better with short hair.
Yeah, I like a cleanly shaven Brad.
Yeah.
So that's just my opinion. There you go.
World War Z will be out soon. We'll be able to check out his facial hair pretty soon. It looks pretty action-packed. Looks pretty good. PG-13 rating, which is a bit surprising, but it is what it is. So coming up next, Caitlyn shows us a demonstration of her incredible makeup skills, and we give you the latest movie trailer reviews. Stay tuned. Welcome back to Showreel. Now, Courtney and I will review a film each. However, we only have time for 1 minute per review. So, we'll be cut off if we take too long. I'm up first.
And your time starts now.
From the director of Ice Age and Robots comes the latest fantasy adventure animation, Epic. Set in a secluded forest where a war between good and evil is waged by an army of tiny humans known as Leafmen and a grotesque race of miniature monsters known as Boggans. Epic looks to deliver an enthralling story wrapped in breathtaking visuals, featuring voices from an all-star cast that includes Amanda Seyfried, Colin Farrell, Christoph Waltz, Steven Tyler, Beyonce,
30
and
seconds.
bizarrely Pitbull. This film looks to be the biggest hit of the upcoming school holidays. It's released nationally June 24th, so don't miss it.
Oh, you just made it. Okay, so now this movie I cannot wait to see. The Way, Way Back is brought to us by the creators of Juno and Little Miss Sunshine. It's directed by Nat Faxon and Jim Rash, and this feel-good, touching movie trailer follows a young guy who makes friends with the owner of a water park while on vacation with his family. He tries to escape from his family life and his mother's boyfriend by coming to the water park every day, which is the only place he feels happy. I give the trailer 5 out of 5 because I loved it. The film stars Sam Rockwell, Steve Carell, Toni Collette, Anna Sophia Robb, Amanda Peet, and Rob Corddry. And the film is released in cinemas in August, so don't miss it. Don't make it. Is that the
I'll make sure I don't miss either of them, and you just made it.
So Caitlyn is going to show us a fantastic demo of a silicone cut. So Caitlyn, what are you doing?
So basically I've sculpted the silicone wound onto his skin prior to this, and I've powdered it down so that it sort of looks more flesh toned and take away the shine. And now I'm just getting a stipple brush and I'm taking some red rubber mask grease paint, thinned down with isopropyl alcohol, just to add a bit of trauma to the outside of the wound. It also helps to blend away any lines of the prosthetic, make it look more natural.
So how long does something like this usually take?
It varies depending on the sort of size of the wound and how intricate it has to be, those sort of things. Like one like this is, will only take a few minutes.
Yeah. How does it feel?
It feels weird. I have no idea what's going on to the side of my cheek, but I imagine it looks pretty cool.
Can you feel it, like where the silicone is, or does it feel kind of?
So what's the most disgusting wound you've ever had to make?
It's probably a couple of different ones. Like I've done a fair few slit throats, and they're pretty cool. Lots of blood and gruesome, and most of them I've like sculpted beforehand, like matched it to the actor. Yeah. But other than that, like I've with a zombie, I like cut out their eye and then re-stitched it back up, sort of thing. Obviously with a prosthetic, but that sort of look.
How does it feel when you finish a makeup job? Pretty satisfying, or?
Yeah, it's a pretty good feeling. I mean, especially if you're going to see it on the screen, it's amazing to look and think, oh my God, I did that. So it's always a great feeling.
And I've also heard that fake blood tastes like chocolate. Is that true?
Homemade fake blood usually tastes like chocolate because you add the cocoa powder to just give it that really deep colour, because straight fruit dye looks too fake. Yeah. But if you go into like a lot of the makeup, the blood I use is like professionally made, and they'll like be different flavours to them, so they're edible to eat and things like that, so you can have them in your mouth. The one I use is peppermint flavoured,
Oh, nice.
Had some good feedback from most people that have had it in their mouth, so
Oh, that's good.
yeah. Well, you want to keep the actors
Yeah,
happy, and especially if they're going to have it in their mouth for a long period of time.
Do you find that if it's taking a long time, do actors sort of do they get annoyed or fidgety, or everyone's keeping happy?
It really depends on the actor, whether they've had experience with prosthetics before.
Yeah.
Or special effects, because if they've only had straight HD makeup done before, they're not going to know what sort of time frame to expect. But yeah, if they've had like a full creature makeup done, then something like this they would have no issue with.
Yeah.
Just get it turn this way just a little bit. Thank you.
Oh, it's starting to look cool.
Yeah, so now what I'm taking like a finer brush and just highlighting some of the inside parts of the wound. I'm going into another colour called Lake. So I've thinned this one with the ice profile as well.
And are these expensive?
It depends on the products.
Yeah.
These can be quite expensive. You go into some of the inks, which like they stay on. Mm. They're quite expensive, but there's a huge range of different, and like a lot of them are brought out for certain films as well. They can get custom made ones.
Yeah.
Have you ever practiced on yourself before? And
yeah, most of the crazy stuff I try myself first.
But Halloween's one hell of a time for you.
Yeah, definitely. And, you know, get lots of friends to get me to do the makeup, as well as paid jobs and things like that. Mm. Like I did a job in a nightclub last year. I was like on the floor all night doing makeup just for whoever, and then I was paid by the nightclub. Mm. So that was pretty awesome. It was kind of unusual doing makeup in the dark with strobes, but it's all part of the job, I guess.
So how do you know when you're done? Like, enough's enough sort of thing? Because that looks pretty cool.
Yeah, well, I guess it comes down to whether you think it's going to be gruesome enough. You don't want to go too much.
Oh my god, that's so cool.
Well, unfortunately, that's all we have time for. Thank you so much, Caitlyn, for joining us today. And if you head to YouTube to watch more Showreel and catch up on the latest Showreel news on our Facebook and Twitter, and to find out more about Caitlyn and her work, you can visit her website below. We'll leave you now with more acting tips from Keanu Reeves. We'll be back next week. See you then.
Hi, and welcome to Acting 102. I'm Keanu Reeves. Today we are talking about speech. This may seem basic, but if you don't get it right, it won't end well.
Oh no, Lady Huntington. The hedgehogs have gone and ruined all the petunias, and right before the garden show.
The first step of acting is the perfect emphasis. The wrong emphasis can completely change the meaning of a sentence.
Agent Billionaire McHandsome, you're back from the dead. But how did you survive the plane crash?
How did you survive the plane crash?
I'm serious.
I was under contract. Now, let's eat, sexy inspector.
Yes, let's eat, sexy inspector.
Next is breathing. You must know when it is right to breathe, how much to breathe, and even how to better your performance through breathing.
Well, you see, Sexy Inspector, we've captured the hacker. We can find and rescue Queen of New Zambia's voice from the roots of Canada and then fly home. We rewarded with New Zambia's greatest treasure, the son of a million voice strategy, just giant diamonds, so we can find it.
Well, tell me where to sell the diamond, or this, will all be in vain.
Accents are the foe of many accomplished actors, but if you can master them, your embodiment of any character will be more convincing.
Well, if you ate all the hedgehogs, who destroyed the petunias?
I don't know. Perhaps it was Mrs. Evertree. If we lose the garden show, she'll be next in line as the Duchess of Merrywood.